Now, loot is a big part of the game. We know that. Now, I've spoke about this website in a previous video when I first sort of discovered it, and it was fairly in sort of a development state, if you like. There was a lot of things that was being changed and a lot of kinks that were being ironed out, and have been ironed out now. And the reason I want to talk about it again is because there's now an add-on. So there's in-game support for this site. So this site I'm talking about is thatsmybis.com. You may have used it, you may not have used it, but ultimately it's a brilliant tool for you to be able to manage loot in your guilds. So firstly, if you haven't seen my last video, obviously check it out because I go into all the settings and everything you can do in thatsmybis.com. Now I want to focus more on the add-on and so show you how it can make loot management and just general sort of transparency when it comes to loot in your guild really easy. Because one of the big things that happens with a loot council guild, because this is ultimately a loot council site, but because it's so transparent and people are asking for the loot, as in putting it on wish lists, and then, you know, your officers or your admins or whatever are deciding sort of who what's going to. It's almost so fair that no one can complain, and I think that's the main thing when it comes to loot. And you get arguments, you know, dragon spine trophy drops, and then like all the hunters are like, oh, why has it gone to a feral, why has it gone to an enhancement? You know, it's transparent, they can see why, and as long as everyone's got the add-on, they can see who's up next, you know, on the priority list, who's got it on their wish list. You know, it's just really good. So I just want to talk through some of the sort of basic uses of it, and this should be a fairly short video. I just want to say thank you guys for everyone who subbed to the channel. We've hit 20k today. Really like absolutely blown away. It wasn't that long ago we was on like 4k or something like that, so it's absolutely flying, and it's all thanks to you guys. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit subscribe. Obviously like, ring the bell for notifications, all that sort of thing, and come check me out over on twitch.tv/Scottejaye87. So I'll put all the links to in the description to all of this anyway, but if you go on thatsmybis.com, you'll obviously have to register a guild. Now when you register a guild, it basically ties it to your guild Discord, and it will use your guild Discord ranks. So as I say, if you haven't checked my first video out I've done on this, obviously feel free, link will be in the description, and I'll put a little card up the top right now. But I'll just quickly show you. So our TBC guild, like I've got my 60 feral night elf feral with engineering mining at the moment. My professions are changing, but then you can see like what recipes I've got. So I've only put one on because we was just doing this for testing purposes. But then if you go up to, for example, loot, and then you go guild recipes, it will show everybody who can craft what in the guild, which just makes life easier. So every time you get a new recipe drop in a raid, obviously you can add it so you can quickly see who can make what. I just thought I'd mention that first, but we're actually going to look at our Classic guild, which again, there's not a lot on here at the moment because we're not bothered about Classic. Obviously, we're just waiting for TBC. But if we go to the loot, and then we look at Blackwing Lair, for example, you can see all of the loot in Blackwing Lair. So this is a great way to go through the raids and actually look at what drops off what boss. I know there's plenty of databases where you can do that, but you can do all of this in one site. So you can use Thatsmybis to check loot, check, you know, where it drops, check, you know, who's got it on their prio list, well, who's prioed for it in what order, who's received it in the past, and whose wish list it's on. So I've added a couple of items just for demonstration purposes. So if we go down to Drakefang Talisman, I am prioed for it. So if there was more than one, you know, you would list it in order who's on the priority list. But at the moment, it's just me who's playing about with this site. So I've added this item to my wish list, and the admin have decided that I am rank 1 prio to get it. And then the same goes for Prestor's Talisman as well. So Prestor's, I've got it on my wish list, but no one's got prio on it at the moment. So this is relevant. I will show you in game why this is relevant. But if we just look at what you can actually do, so if you go to your profile, and then you've got, you know, this is where you're basically going to do all of your stuff. So you can create alts, you can do everything. But if you go to loot, you can now add items to your wish list. So, you know, let's say that I wanted Thunder Fury. Let's say I wanted Thunder Fury. Don't know why I'd want that, but let's add it anyway. So we'll add it to my wish list. And then if there was any received loot that I'd received, you know, basically you'll export everything from the game into this. So after a raid, you'll basically export all of the data into this, and then it'll auto-populate everything, all the loot that each person's received, etc. But you can now obviously export it from the site into the game, and I'm going to show you why this is useful. So now we're in game, you can see if you type /TMB in game, so that's obviously Thatsmybis. Now you can see what you want to show on tooltip. So priority note, guild note, ranks, wishlist, prios, display alt. You know, you can set this to whatever you want, but this is where you actually paste in the CSV to get the data. So if we go back onto the website, you'll see, so if we go to admin and then we go to exports, now we can just view, so loot, received, wishlist, prios, and notes. So this is just everything, or you can go just wish lists, just pryos, you know, whatever you want. But I would recommend just actually getting it all. So then all you do is copy and paste this data into game, and that's it done. So now, if we look at, let's go into Atlas Loot and have a look at Thunder Fury. Thunder Fury, you can see there on the tooltip, wishes, so Scotty. So it's my third item on my wish list. So my first item that I really want is Drakefang Talisman. So if we go to my Drakefang Talisman, you can see that it says Scotty 1, Prio 1. So I'm first on the priority list, and it's my number one item that I really want. So let's say, for example, we had on that particular item somebody it was their wish list number 5. So they've got loads more items they want ahead of that, but it's my number 1. The Loot Council might decide, well, this is the item that he really wants, so it's clearly the biggest upgrade for him. The other guy's got it as number 5, so there's clearly bigger upgrades for him. We'll give it to the one who's got it on wish list number 1. So you could work that way without even having prios set up. But what you would do as a guild leader or as the raid leader or loot master or whatever you want to call yourself, you would instantly highlight on this item and see, okay, so Scotty, let's say it said wishes, Scotty was 7, so it's my 7th item. But for some reason, the Loot Council have decided that I am number 1 on the prior anyway. There's no need to discuss, there's no need to look, there's no need to do anything. You instantly just give that loot to Scotty. So now, there has got to be work that's done outside, don't get me wrong, you know, but you don't need to decide loot on the spot. You can literally go through people's wish lists and then assign loot to them on a priority basis based on that. And this can all be done outside of raids, so you've got like no downtime in raids. You already know who's getting what just by highlighting over the item. And there can't be any mistakes. Everybody can get this add-on, so everybody can see who's got what, you know, who's on what. So when an item drops and somebody prio 1 and the other person's prio 2, the person who's prio 2 can't say a word about it. It's just that it's transparent, and that's what we want. We want a transparent loot system where nobody can say anything. But let's just jump back in game again. So like I said, I also put press stores on there, so you can see there wishes Scotty, so press stores is 2. Now let me show you what this will look like if I get a couple more people to actually add some items on. Right, so now we've got some more data. So Hoyt has just added a couple of items to his wish list. Thank you for that, mate. So if we now look at DFT, we can see wishes, Toman and Scotty, so both of us have got it as our number 1 item, but it's still prio to me. Sorry, Hoyt. And then if we look at like press stores, we can now see it's not prio to anyone, but I've got it as my 2nd most wanted item. He's got it as his 3rd most wanted item. So now you would probably make a decision on, you know, who's had the most upgrades. You could quickly look at the received list and stuff like that. You know, that's down to your guys to sort of manage how you're going to then distribute loot. But just looking at it like that, I want it more than Hoyt does. So maybe you would choose to give it to me. You know, this is how it would show. So if there was 10 people on that item, it would show all 10 in order that they've got it on their wish list, and obviously who it's prio to in order like it does on here. So it shows that Scotty is prio number 1, then it would show number 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, however you've got it set up in like on Thatsmybis, the website. So as you can see, this is not just an amazing site to look at loot or, you know who's in your guild, what recipes you've got. You can more or less run your entire guild around this website. It's that good, and I feel that strongly about it. Even if you wasn't necessarily using Loot Council, I can still see this being quite useful, purely just as a tool, as I say, to look at loot from each boss, put on who's received loot from each boss, because you could still sort of keep an eye on who's took what, even if you was using some sort of GDKP system or whatever you're using. You know, I know there's add-ons specifically for those loot systems, if you like, but this is a banger, and if you haven't seen it, just go on there and create a character, create a mock guild and play about with it, and you'll soon see like how strong this can be. So if you're not a guild master, you're not an officer, you're just a member in your guild, please share this video with your guild, especially if they're going to use Loot Council, because I think your guild master will probably want to see this. He might already know about it, but if he don't, he'll probably want to start using it. So I know this was a quick one, but I just wanted to give you an update on Thatsmybis, because I bigged this site up massively before and said how amazing it is, and it still is amazing, but now it's got in-game tooltips as well, which just takes it next level in my opinion. If you found this useful, please like, subscribe, consider joining the channel as a member, and obviously come check me out over on Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.